Hey there. Welcome back to the Good Knowledge, Evil Ignorance podcast. My name's Kyle. I'm 3 episodes in. This is episode 4. And I've gotten some comments, good and constructive, about the last few episodes, and so I want to use those to try to improve myself, obviously, because that's what this is here for. When I was putting this on Spotify, it asked me to do a couple of categories, and I think it combined them and said that my podcast is self-help, which is funny because whenever I hear self-help, I have a weird feeling about that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it is, but it's not me trying to impart my wisdom upon you. If anything, it actually is self-help. This is pretty selfish, actually. This is for me. And then it's also for you to listen to, and maybe you can do whatever you want with it. But this is kind of for me to help understand my own beliefs and kind of see where I lie. It starts with understanding that I really don't know what's going on. I know nothing. But at the same time, I've obviously lived 26 years, and so there are things that I think I know. And I'm going to combine those two and just kind of talk and give myself the freedom to be wrong. And also to maybe be right, and that's okay. And so I've gotten a couple of criticisms, and I'm gonna try to use those because they are accurate criticisms. Among which was from one of my managers at work, who's never even heard the podcast, but she knows how I talk, and she's saying, "Hey Kyle, try slowing down. Try being a little smoother. Don't just rat-a-tat-tat all the time. Try to, pause and think and articulate and move forward." And so I'm going to try to do that as well and try to be a little slower, be a little more deliberate, maybe let the thoughts enter my head first and then speak, not to try to censor myself, but to maybe have, better thoughts and better words. I've also heard a couple things that I might be sounding a little preachy. I get that. I understand. I can see that. I assure you, I don't see it that way, because I don't think I'm trying to preach. I'm genuinely trying to give myself the space to think and to just say things that come into my head, whether or not they be logical or accurate or false. And that's, I don't know, that's just kind of what I need in order to move forward and to improve upon myself. I promise that hopefully a year from now, when this podcast is still going, it will be much more succinct, much more structured, much more coherent, and probably a heck of a lot more accurate and logical. But I wanted to start this episode as kind of a springboard off of the last one of what we think we know. And what's funny is I actually wanted that episode to go in a completely different direction, and I wanted to talk about what I'm going to talk about now. But knowing myself, I got on tangents and other trains of thought and digressions, and I started talking about what we think we know about reality and society and minor parts about culture. And that will be a theme that continues on for quite some time in this podcast. But where it all started from, in fact, where a lot of my thinking and where a lot of my desire to talk into this microphone came from, was this one quote. Well, it's a series of quotes, but it's put together in a way during the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie came out, I think, last year or 2 years ago, and I think it's quickly becoming my favorite movie. And it's moving up the ranks. It's probably knocked off Jurassic Park by now. And it's probably going to knock off Empire Strikes Back pretty soon. I think it's going to be quickly my number one favorite movie. Just because of what's in it. And I don't want to talk about it too much, because if I start, I would spend the next 15 minutes just talking about the movie to get up to the point where I'm about to tell you about this quote. I will have a whole episode, much like the prologue episode of It's a Wonderful Movie, where I talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once and what it means to be. But there's this one quote that when I heard it for the first time, I was pretty much wiped out, in a good way. I was dumbstruck. It was a lot of things that I had been thinking, a lot of things that I had been hoping and wishing that I could do in my life. Waymond is a character in the movie, and he is kind of the he is at first he's the husband who's kind of looking for divorce. I'm not going to try to spoil anything, but he ends up being one of the prime characters in the movie and trying to, get rid of the bad guy. And there's a lot of context, but I hope that I can just deliver this quote without delivering the context, because I think the quote outside of the movie is fantastic. And so I'll just say it to you. When I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It is strategic and necessary. It's how I learn to survive through everything. And during this scene, he's going back and forth, or the scene is cutting back and forth between a couple different versions of reality. And it's at the same time, another Waymond from a different universe is also saying, the only thing I do know is that we have to be kind. Please be kind, especially when we don't know what's going on. Every time, I've seen that movie 3 times already, and every time it gets to this part, I am definitely emotionally compromised, so to speak. It really is everything that has ever bothered me about my interactions with people and the observations I see about people, about our fellow peoples here in the country and our fellow man. And it seems like there's a whole heck of a lot of unkindness towards each other. And the way it goes back to what we think we know is that it seems as if we're making a whole heck of a lot of assumptions about each other. I think just for instance, to kind of start with an anecdote, I've had a lot of arguments with coworkers, as you would. It happens when you work with someone for so long. And one of the more recent ones was a total example of me not living up to this quote that I just told you. And by now in my life, when this argument happened, I had already watched this movie once. And so I've already believed these things. And yet when this argument started with the coworker, we both started arguing with someone who wasn't there. We both made assumptions about each other that were rooted in truth, but it spread out so far that they stopped being true very quickly. And I don't want to get into too much detail because her and I, my coworker and I, are actually pretty good friends. We maintained our friendship afterwards, despite having such a terrible argument. But the argument came from not giving each other the benefit of the doubt, not being kind to each other, and not taking a breath and realizing that we don't know what's going on in each other's heads, and to pretend that we do, even though we have plenty of reason to believe so, is unfair to each other. And I see this all the time in my life, whether I'm just watching interactions happen or I'm taking part in those interactions. And it's what we think we know that gets us in trouble. We assume way too much about what's in the other person's head, and then we go on it and we act on it and we make things worse. I saw a couple of my coworkers talk. I mean, it was fascinating, truly fascinating what happened here. The amount of life trauma that are built into these two individuals, and the amount of dislike they already have for each other, and then it comes out in this normal conversation. It's hard to give context without giving too much and getting too much on a digression here, but essentially it's kind of like when you're a server and you're trying to figure out who takes turn, like who has the next table. And what happened was the supervisor looked over to this other coworker and said, "Whose turn is it? What is the order?" And the other one looked around and tried to very calmly, well, I actually was proud of her in a way, because I was waiting for her to be snarky, because they're both like this to each other. But she turned around and very calmly just started going, "Well, I think Kyle's group left last, so I think your group beat me out." But then I could see that she was kind of trailing off, and she got a little quiet, and the other person just jumped on her and said, "Hey, I'm just trying to ask what the order is. Can you just tell me?" And then the other person got irritated as well and said, "I'm trying to tell you. Just give me a second, because we don't know." And then by then, the customers were getting way too close to this conversation, physically close, like they were moving in on us, and I didn't want them to hear this. And so I just said, "Hey, ladies, whose turn is it? There's someone walking in." And the supervisor just walked away and picked it up. And I was just stunned by how quickly that conversation turned sour because both of them just would not. Actually, the other coworker, I guess, was trying to just be civil in her own way. And the supervisor just totally didn't give her the space and just jumped on her immediately. And it was this conversation that did not have to be bad. And it was, because they both decided, or at least the supervisor decided, that it was going to be bad and that she knew what was going through the other person's head and that she was going to act on it. And she saw incoherence and lack of fluidity where the other coworker was really just trying to be honest and figure out what was going on. And by the way, in previous interactions, the supervisor might have been right to think these things. Maybe not right to act the way she did, but right to assume that there was a little bit of animosity coming from the other coworker. But it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. This is what I've been trying to tell myself so much all the time. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. You just have to kind of assume that the other person standing in front of you is slightly different than they were yesterday, because I am, for sure, way different than I was yesterday, than a week ago, than 5 years ago, than when I was a teenager. We have to give each other that space to improve and to assume that we've improved. And even when the other person hasn't, even when we can, right? Without a shadow of a doubt what this person is saying and why, and and you just want to jump on it and you want to crush that and you want to show them how well you know them and how much you're going to anticipate them, and you could be 100% right and you could nail it completely. You just might be wrong. And I have a hard time doing that, and I have to mentally breathe and just tell myself to be kind, especially when I don't know what's going on, because I don't know what's going on because I know nothing. And I do know things. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to survive this long and get to where I am in my life without knowing things that are accurate and being right about them. But especially when it comes in contact with our daily people. I mean, traffic, and I know I bring this up a lot, you can tell, I'm sure. Traffic bothers me because I see myself as a pretty competent driver. I see myself as a skilled and well-educated manipulator of an automobile. And I thank my parents for that, because they are skilled automobile manipulators as well. Whenever I get into a car, it becomes an extension of my body. I can feel where the wheels are. I can feel the engine and how quickly it reacts to my foot. I mean, it just becomes me. And I feel really grateful that I had parents who taught me to drive like that. I think I'm a good driver. Really, genuinely. A lot of people will tell me I'm a good driver. My girlfriend, she says, "Kyle, I've never felt so comfortable in a passenger seat than with you because you're such a good driver." And gosh, I'll be out there on the streets and someone will cut me off, or they won't be going fast enough, or they're not using their blinker, or they left their blinker on, and I can feel the devil on my shoulder just getting irritated, and I can feel myself consciously thinking how incompetent this person must be, and maybe they're just stupid. And then I see myself thinking these things, and I become ashamed pretty quickly, and especially nowadays with how I'm starting to think, or how I'm continuing to try to think. I catch myself thinking these thoughts that I criticize other people for thinking, and I go, And what's even funnier is I'll be just mentally lambasting these people in my head, and then, no joke, 2 days later, I will do the same freaking thing. I will do the same dumb move because I wasn't paying attention, because whatever. And I get honked at, and I get shouted at, and I get people shaking their head at me, and honestly, I laugh. And it's a humbling laugh. It's a humbling experience every time this happens, because I realize that, good gosh, maybe this is what's happening to these people who I'm thinking are bad drivers. Maybe they're perfectly fine drivers, and they just make a mistake. And now I'm sitting in here letting it ruin my moment. Right, whether it be ruining the next 5 minutes or the next 10 minutes or maybe even the next half an hour if it was a really bad traffic interaction. And then I'm reacting to them by either obviously nodding my head and shaking at them or using my hands like, what are you doing? I've gotten really good at not flicking people off. That used to be a problem of mine, but now I don't do that anymore. And I honk only when absolutely necessary. I don't honk out of anger. I only honk out of, I'm right here. Don't hit me. And then maybe I'm putting a sour taste in their mind. So it's like this game of ping pong, right? You're playing ping pong but the paddles keep getting closer and closer. So it's going and you're just like, it's this, what's the word? There's an actual phrase for that. It's one of those phrases that I'm not going to think about until I start talking about something else, but that's okay. It's this, it's like a frequency. Gosh darn it. It's where the person in traffic does something that irritates me, and then I react in a way that they notice that irritates them, and then maybe they start like slowing down or brake checking me, and then I get irritated, so then I start riding them because I want to show them just how aggressive I can be. And it's this, oh man. Yeah, I can't think of the word. It's just this ping pong table where the balls or the paddles start getting closer and closer, and the ball just, it's going crazy. And I swear to God, this is like a radio term. I should know this. It's going to bug me the whole rest of this show, this episode. But I'm going to move on. And that's what happens in interactions that go bad, especially in like arguments between couples. I mean, and I've worked so hard with my girlfriend to try to stop these things from happening where, like, let's say the one couple or the one individual will say something. And now maybe they said something out of irritation or curiosity, or maybe there's a little bit of passive aggressiveness to it. And now it's on to the other person to hit that ping pong ball back. And you know what sometimes I think is necessary? And sometimes what I try to do is instead of hitting the ping pong ball back, I grab the ball and I hold on to it. And I go, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on here? And that is so hard to do because every instinct in you as a human being, especially in today's culture with how we talk to each other over Facebook and how we argue and insult each other and how we see other people acting on social media and how we think we are to each other, you want to hit that ping pong ball back so hard. You want to score a point. You want, and I'm saying the proverbial you, maybe I should be saying me, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking to you this way. That seems unfair of me. So I'm going to try to use, this is one of those improve myself things, right? The self-help things. I want to hit that ping pong ball back so hard and to score a point and to have them totally miss it and fly off the wall and lose a point. But then they hit it back. And now I'm like, well, now I can't let them score on me. So I'm going to hit that thing back even harder. And I think what's necessary is one of the people, or maybe even both. It would be nice if you didn't even serve up the ping pong ball in the first place, right? And this is the perfect argument is not an argument. It's a discussion that is, you're like teetering on the edge of chaos and order, and you're trying to figure out how to communicate yourself. You're trying to point out, hey, like, okay, for instance, here's an example. Let's say you have a girlfriend and or boyfriend, and they are doing the dishes in a way that makes you wonder, like, why do they do the dishes like that? Like, let's say they put the silverware up instead of down, right? The part that you use, the tip of the fork or the tip of the knife or the tip of the spoon, they face up because they think it needs more air, and the washer is going to wash the silverware and the silverware holder up better. But what you might think is that, oh no, you actually need the silverware facing down so that as it's being washed, all the stuff goes down the silverware and the sprayer from underneath cleans the bottom of the silverware. And you don't say anything because maybe you don't want to correct them because you already are, you're appreciative of the fact that they did the dishes in the first place. So you don't want to like correct them and make them think that you're not appreciative of that and that you're just trying to correct them. So maybe you don't say anything. And maybe you don't say anything for like 2 weeks. And they keep doing it. And then all of a sudden you go, hey, why do you do this? Bad example or bad method there. Because most people, most human beings like you and me, most flawed individuals might just get defensive and go, well, because this. And then now it's a ping pong ball game. Alternatively, if we could just take a breath and not even serve the ping pong ball, what you could say is, hey, sweetheart, I'm curious. I got to know here. I've always thought that if you do the silverware this way, that it gets cleaned better. But I notice every time you do the dishes that you do the silverware that way. Is there a reason why? I mean, am I wrong, or what's going on here? I'm just curious. And they might go, oh yeah, like yeah, if you stick them upwards, the sprayer on top washes it, and that way, because if it's face downwards, then they're all clumped together and they don't have any space, And you go, huh. Well, I never thought about that. I never thought about it like that. I see. What I would have been doing is I thought that if you put it downwards, like then the sprayer underneath sprays it and it all goes down, like everything slides downwards, so the water, slides off. And let's just say you make a good point, or I make a good point, and the other person goes, "Oh, there's a sprayer underneath," and you go, "Oh yeah, you didn't know that?" And they go, no, I thought there was a sprayer on top and in the middle. I didn't know there was an underneath sprayer. And you both, you're starting to laugh at each other, and you both open the dishwasher and you just point to it, and they go, oh my God, it's right there. I go, yeah, I know. That's why I was so confused why you were doing the dishes this way. And they go, huh, yeah, okay, hey, good on you. And then you can add at the very end, oh, hey, by the way, thank you so much for doing the dishes. I was just curious. I didn't know if this was if I didn't know if I missed something. And they can go, no, you totally got me on that one. Yeah, good times. Okay, I'll make sure to do it that way. I mean, I know it's kind of a silly example, but it's kindness. It's being open. And maybe they are doing it right, and maybe you're just being frustrated. Shoot, I'm sorry, I'm saying you again. Maybe they are doing it right, and maybe I'm just getting frustrated because I think that they know what I know, and despite this, they are doing it differently. And I also might think that I'm right, and my way's better. And, I want to get to the point, especially in my life, especially with my girlfriend, and I think we are starting off on a great start. I think we have a great start. So we've had a few disagreements and a couple arguments and a couple of ping pong ball games, but they've been diffused very quickly. It's not just me that is trying it. She's actually really wonderful about this, and it takes a lot of patience, especially on my end, where I'm a very competitive person when it comes to linguistic battles. I like to win. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I love it. It feels good. But I've gotten to the point in life where it's like, well, if you win, then the other person loses, and then you have a winner and a loser. And I never want my friends and my family and my girlfriend, I never want them to feel like losers. I don't want them to lose. And let's just say I am right about this dishwasher thing. And by the way, this isn't an example in reality. She does the dishes perfectly every time. And so do I. We both, wait, hold on. No, actually, she gets irritated about the way I do the bowls. Never mind. But it's in a funny way. Let's just say I am right. Or in this example, I was right about the dishwasher, right? But now we're both winners. It's not that she was wrong and now she's a loser. Now we're both winners because we both know how the dishwasher works, and we're both on the same page. And it's a battle every time with yourself, with myself, to not make it about what I know and what they don't, but to make it a battle about what we both don't know and what we both might know and what we're both bringing to the table. And I know this is exceptionally more difficult with couples that have been together longer because there's so much more, for lack of a better term, baggage. There's so much more history. And even though the relationship is full of wonder and love and greatness, there's always this, there's those sour things that happen where that the other person has bad habits, and it might just, instead of you having this, I would say you, I guess I can't say me, but sorry. Instead of you having my bad. Instead of them giving each other the space to improve and to have maybe changed since the last time they had an argument, they assume, and they think they know what's going through the other person's head. And which of course you would, because you've been together for so long, you probably do read each other's minds. I've been together with my girlfriend for 5 months, and I can already kind of anticipate what she's going to think, and she can already anticipate me. It's actually very funny when that happens. So imagine, decades together, and of course you can anticipate thoughts, and there might even times when they're right. They anticipate properly, but then the ping pong ball game starts. it's hard to just, especially after you're going, especially after you want to win that ping pong game, it is so hard to just reach out with your hand and grab the ping pong ball and to just stop the game and say, wait, what is going on right now? What are we arguing about? Are we actually arguing about the dishwasher? Or are you mad at me for something I did yesterday that you haven't even brought up, and it's coming out through your irritation at the dishwasher, which has been a problem for the past 3 weeks? Like when I came home from work the other day, did I not greet you properly? Did I not say hi? Did I just walk in and take a shower without saying hi to you? Like, was I just a little short because maybe I was irritated at work and I had a lot on my mind? Like, there's so much that could be going on that even though we've been together for so long, we might miss it. And I'm going to bring this back out to everyday life and our interactions with our friends and family and coworkers and perfect strangers. I saw a video on Facebook when I was on the toilet. It was a really strange moment for this video to come across because I was just sitting on the toilet and this video comes across and it's of this guy who's just handing out notes to people of like really nice things, and not even like cliche nice things, just simple, hey man, you got this kind of things, you know? And there was this lady who was leaning up against a rail next to the ocean who looked kind of pensive, thoughtful, maybe even sad. And the guy walked up, gave her a note, and walked away and said, hey, have a good day. And the note said something like, you know, it's all going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Just breathe. And you could see her look down and read the note, and her shoulders dropped, and it was really wonderful. It was a really great moment. And then right as that happened, a pelican landed right next to her, and just like right next to her, and just sat there with her and looked at her and looked at the water and was probably just looking for some fish. I mean, pelicans probably don't even know what's going on here, but the woman, you could just she was having a moment of what happens when a perfect stranger shows you kindness when they have absolutely no reason to do so. And she was like grinning ear to ear, and you could see how happy she was, and you could see her. The video was taken far away, so you couldn't hear what she was saying, but you could see her talking to the pelican and saying, you know, like something like, hey, you know, what are you doing? What are you up to? And the pelican just sat there and looked at her and looked back at the water, and it was just this wonderful moment. And I wish that could be everywhere all the time with our interactions with each other, because I see so much sadness and so much, you know, pain and so much irritation and frustration and anger coming from ourselves and each other. And then you see these little glimpses of kindness and true generosity, and it cuts right to your soul, you know. And I like to think these things go on way more often than we know. I think social media has really tainted the way we see how the rest of society interacts with each other. We only see the bad things. We only see the irritating things because that's what gets the attention. That's what gets people watching. And so you have Facebook, who is getting clicks and views off of making you irritated and resentful and spiteful towards your fellow man. And we cannot let them win. I don't even want to say let them win. I don't want to say that Facebook's doing this on purpose. It's just the algorithm. It's what happens because they're going out for watch time, and we watch the things that we go, oh, God, how could that ever happen? That's terrible. That's awful. But it is also good to see the videos where it's good things that happen. And there's the kindness that shines through, and there's the especially when we don't know what's going on, just be kind to each other. It is not naive to be nice. It is not childlike to turn the other cheek when you see someone trying to show you animosity or anger or violence sometimes. I mean, you got to protect yourselves, obviously, but there is wisdom and strength in being able to not hit the ping pong ball back by just grabbing it out of midair and saying, I'm not going to do that. I don't care how bad of a person you might really be. I don't care how bad of a person you think I am. I don't care how right we might be about each other or how wrong we might be. I am not going to hurt you. I am not going to try to win in this verbal bout. I'm going to try to have us both be winners. And I'm going to show you kindness no matter how much you want to show me the other ways. And I am going to show myself kindness by doing that and by creating, I think I said this last episode, by creating a safety harness for your soul, so that you stop your soul from going deeper down into the depths of hell because you are not allowing that resentful, that spiteful, angry person that lives within you to win, because it's there. He's there, or she is there. Come on, we all got him. God, we feel that so much sometimes. And it is not naive to show people kindness, and it seems like it comes off that way nowadays, but it's not. It is strategic and necessary, and it is the only way we are going to get through this alive. And I want to thank you for giving me a chance to talk to you like this. And maybe you listened to the other episodes and thought they were a little disjointed, thought they might be a little preachy and might be a little unorthodox and maybe a little, judgmental. And you might be right about some of those things. But I'm going to try to change that. That's kind of the whole point of this little podcast here, is to try to start somewhere, and just starting by, I know nothing and there are truths, and we're going to go and find them together. And I'm going to be wrong a lot of the way, and I'm going to cherish the moments where I'm right, and I want you to come with me, and I want you to help me, because I can't do this alone. I need you. And thank you. There is hope out there, and I think there's some good things that are going to happen, and I want to be there together with you when those things happen. So with that, I'm going to bring this to a close. I'm going to go eat some pancakes with my girlfriend because we both had the day off. And I want to remind you, just because I really want to hear you, this podcast does have a Twitter, the Good Knowledge, Evil Ignorance Podcast. It's at GKEI 2023. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to you, especially over this podcast. Maybe you want to talk about a certain subject or whatever. I don't know. Go and leave a comment. And have yourself a wonderful day, please, or a wonderful night, or whatever you're doing. Have a great car ride. Enjoy the homework you're working on. I don't know how you could do homework with my voice in your ears, but that'd be pretty impressive. But I'll stop rambling. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.